Chapter 11. We meet the human flamethrower. Right, I'm taking the microphone. There is no chance Carter would tell this part properly. It's about Zia. Shut up, Carter. You know it's true. Oh, who is Zia? Sorry, getting ahead of myself. We raced to the entrance of the museum, and I had no idea why, except that a giant glowing Catwoman had told us to. Now, you must realize I was already devastated by everything that had happened. First, I'd lost my father. Second, my loving grandparents had kicked me out of the flat. Then I discovered I was apparently blood of the pharaohs, born to a magical family, and all sorts of rubbish that sounded quite impressive, but only brought me loads of trouble. And as soon as I found a new home, a mansion with a proper breakfast and friendly pets, and a quite nice room for me, by the way, Uncle Amos disappeared. My lovely new crocodile and baboon friends were tossed into a river, and the mansion was set on fire. And if that wasn't enough, my faithful cat Muffin had decided to engage in a hopeless battle with a swarm of scorpions. Do you call it a swarm of scorpions? A herd? A gaggle? Never mind. The point is, I couldn't believe I'd been asked to open a magical doorway when clearly I had no such skill, and now my brother was dragging me away. I felt like an utter failure. And no comments from you, Carter. As I recall, you weren't much of a help at the time either. "We can't just leave Bast," I shouted. "Look!" Carter kept running, dragging me along, but I could see quite clearly what was happening back at the obelisk. A mass of scorpions had crawled up Bast's glowing green legs and were wriggling into the hologram like it was gelatin. Bast smashed hundreds of them with her feet and fists, but there were simply too many. Soon they were up to her waist, and her ghostly shell began to flicker. Meanwhile, the brown-robed goddess had advanced slowly, and I had the feeling she would be worse than any number of scorpions. Carter pulled me through a row of bushes, and I lost sight of Bast. We burst onto Fifth Avenue, which seemed ridiculously normal after a magic battle. We ran down the sidewalk, shoved through a knot of pedestrians, and climbed the steps of the Met. A banner above the entrance announced some sort of special Christmas event, which I suppose is why the museum was open on a holiday, but I didn't bother reading the details. We pushed straight inside. What did it look like? Well, it was a museum. Huge entry hall, lots of columns, and so on. I can't claim I spent much time admiring the decor. I do remember it had queues for the ticket windows because we ran right past them. There were also security guards, because they yelled at us as we dashed into the exhibits. By luck, we ended up in the Egyptian area, in front of a reconstructed tomb sort of place with narrow corridors. Carter probably could have told you what the structure was supposed to be, but honestly, I didn't care. "Come on," I said. We slipped inside the exhibit, which proved quite enough to lose the security guards, or perhaps they had better things to do than pursue naughty children. When we popped out again, we sneaked around until we were sure we weren't being followed. The Egyptian wing wasn't crowded, just a few clumps of old people and a foreign tour group with a guide explaining a sarcophagus in French. "Évoquez la momie." Strangely, no one seemed to notice an enormous sword on Carter's back, which surely must have been a security issue, and much more interesting than the exhibits. A few old people did give us odd looks, but I suspect that was because we were dressed in linen pajamas, drenched in sweat, and covered in grass and leaves. My hair was probably a nightmare as well. I found an empty room and pulled Carter aside. The glass cases were full of Shabati. A few days earlier I wouldn't have even given them a second thought. Now I kept glancing at the statues, sure that they'd come to life at any minute and try and bash me on the head. "What now?" I asked Carter. "Do you see any temple?" "No." He knit his eyebrows as if trying hard to remember. "I think there's a rebuilt temple down the hall. Or is that in the Brooklyn Museum? Maybe the one in Munich? Sorry, I've been to so many museums with Dad that they all get mixed together." I sighed in exasperation. Poor boy, forced to travel the world, skip school, and spend time with Dad while I get a whole 2 days a year with him. "Hey!" Carter turned on me with surprising force. "You get a home, you get friends and a normal life, and don't wake up each morning wondering about what country you're in. You don't—" Pew! The glass case next to us shattered, spraying glass at our feet. Carter looked at me bewildered. "Did we just—"